networker is like a great interviewer.
I'm huge on authenticity, guys. It's a big part of my message.
Claim your local listings and don't get caught paying someone for your local listing.
If you want to be successful, you got to do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times.
And when in doubt, give to other people and don't expect anything in return. But in giving to other people and helping them, it almost always comes back.
It's using the power of partnership, creating trusted partner networks to work with you to make your company be an offer more than just you.
They've done 90% of the work. It's your job to do the last 10% to meet them in the middle.
Don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast, brought to you by A Advanced Services and Fuse Networks. My name's Galen.
I'm Joe.
We're coming at you virtually from the BD Local Studios in Tacoma, Washington. So, Joe, for our new listeners and viewers tuning in, how did our podcast come to be?
Sure. So it first started out as a private Facebook group page, and the purpose was to bring business owners together to kind of just communicate and talk to one another, ask questions, answer each other's questions, share tips, just have a conversation about business in general. So being that we're in marketing, we get asked a lot of questions outside of just marketing, and we don't always have the answers. So we thought in a kind of a selfish way, this would be the best way to kind of get those questions answered so that we could be kind of more almost like a resource to our clients and just to businesses in general. So we started the podcast to bring on different guest speakers to talk about different topics, all related to business and hopefully improving someone's business.
Awesome. Thank you. So our previous guest, Machen McDonald, Joe, what was one of the takeaways you had from our previous episode?
Yeah, this was actually right in the beginning, but he said that once a business owner hits $1 million, usually it takes a while to get there. But let's say the business owner loses their $1 million, it takes them a shorter amount of time to get back to it and to break through that barrier just because they've already reached it. So now they know what it's going to take to get back to it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Now for today's guest, we're introducing Mr. Per Siofors. And Joe, I'll let you take care of the formal intro, please.
Yes. So Per is a thought leader in everything pricing and how companies can use pricing to drive higher growth, sales volumes, and profits. He is a sought after speaker for various conferences, appears regularly on podcasts and business radio shows, and gets routinely quoted in the financial and business press. His new book, The Price Whisperer, A Holistic Approach to Pricing Power, is available at booksellers nationwide and online. Everyone, please welcome Per.
Thank you very much, Joe and Garland. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Awesome. So we'll talk more with the Price Whisperer in a little bit, but let's get to know Per just a little bit more. So Per, the first question we ask all our guests, what are some early lessons learned as an entrepreneur?
It's because we have this pricing focus and almost all companies go to market with way lower prices than they should because they're timid. They don't believe in their own value, and they believe they have to price themselves low, where in fact often they do not. Mm-hmm. And if a company has a product or a service that is disruptive in some way, that will only appeal to early adopters, not the main market. And early adopters buy for all different reasons, but low price is not one of them, right? So so that's one of the most common mistakes for entrepreneurs to go to market with something that disrupts their market, and they underprice themselves and they make no money, and then they die. Right?
Well, let me ask you this then. Since you've been in business a while, I'm sure you've been given a lot of advice, but what's been the best piece of advice that you've been given?
Oh, the best piece that I've been given, never give up.
Short and sweet, to the point. Never give up. So because we're a marketing company, let me ask you this question then. Why is marketing important for every business?
Well, first of all, in my book, marketing, it's one of the, there are 4 P's of marketing, obviously, and one of them is price. Marketing is important because for 2 reasons, right? Marketing needs to understand the market, meaning that marketing needs to understand what kind of product the market wants or the service. They need to understand who the most desirable customer segments are. They need to understand how they can best promote the product or service, and it needs to know, of course, how to set prices right.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
if you don't do that, right, this is necessary for any successful company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get to that a little bit more. Joe, a plug for our hashtag Valor Cares initiative, please.
Yep. So we're just thankful for businesses everywhere. And one of the ways we're giving back to businesses is by building free websites. So if you don't have a website or need a website rebuilt, just go to our website, askvalormasterminds.com, click on the Valor Cares page and submit your information.
All right. Thank you for that, Joe. Now we come to the part of our podcast, our advanced services pump you up quote of the day. So I asked a quote from Per, and I'll read it and get his quick thought. So for the average company, a 1% increase in price equals 11.3% increase in profit. Have you ever failed to change anything 1%? So Per, share your insight on that quote with us, please.
It's very interesting. This is a very simple calculation any company can do, right? But once the company, certainly anybody in a company's management structure knows how 1% increase in price or 1% decrease in discounting, which of course is the same thing, right? How that affects a company's profitability. A lot of small decisions are going to be different, right? Sales compensation is going to be different. Obviously, discounts are going to be a difference. Product managers is suddenly going to say, how can we make bundles maybe of what we have and charge a little bit extra? How can we do unbundles and charge extra? And once you start thinking about pricing in the context of how it affects profitability, the whole company will change, right?
Yeah. Is that for any size company?
Sorry?
Is that for any size company?
Yes. I have, this is part of the teachings I do. We talked about my book, for example, early on. And some companies I know that have taken this to heart have grown 10 times their size in a couple of 3 years, because having that 1% mindset means more resource for more marketing, for more market development, for more product development, and so forth. You're not going to spend, you are going to spend all that money, but you're going to spend it on developing the business, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I guess I could see that more in like bigger box companies like a Starbucks. Their coffee prices raise up 30%. My Netflix membership has gone up what it was previously. And those same things, obviously they're going to put back in the business. But for the everyday business, I would say some people that Joe and I talked to would probably neglect to really look at it that way, where the increase for what it should be common pricing, they think they undervalue because they're afraid to lose. So I'm glad we have you on to talk about that. So.
Yeah, let me give you an example. A SaaS company we worked with a couple of years ago. We found that they had revenues of maybe $1 million, very small, and we found that they were so underpriced that they could quadruple prices.
Wow.
So they did, not overnight, but they inched up prices over about 6 months. There was 2 results of this. First off, they saw about a 25% increase in sales volume. This is at 4 times the prices, right?
Mhm.
But and I'm paraphrasing the CEO. He said, and we got rid of the bottom feeders.
Mhm.
So our customer support costs have gone down with 80%.
Yeah. Is that because then consumers, if they're priced too low compared to their competitors, then maybe they don't offer the top tier service, right?
Well, in this case, this was a B2B company.
Mhm.
Or I guess is a B2B company. It's because too low prices only attracts those that are very price sensitive.
Yeah.
And price sensitive customers are never loyal to you, right? They they buy your product or your service because of the low price. They never really learn to use it properly. And therefore, everything there is an issue, they call customer service or reach out to customer service. And then once there is an alternative that is just marginally cheaper, they're gone.
Mhm.
So you invest all this effort to support our customers, to keep the customer happy, and then they're not loyal in any way, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it a little bit more.
Millions of cyber criminals are out there on a daily basis trying to steal your information. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Small businesses account for 58% of cyber attacks annually. So help your company fight cybercrime and mitigate risk by being proactive. Call Fuse Networks, your local Seattle IT experts at 206-701-6040 for a complimentary IT network and security
Myth
assessment.
7, our first kind of myth, did you know kind of thing for this episode. I'll read this and get Per's thoughts. So, my market is homogenous, and there are not any segments who buys for different reasons. So, tell us about this myth.
Yeah, that's I mean, it it rubs me the wrong way when I speak to companies and they say, and I ask them, who's your target customer? And they say, we sell to everybody, right? And no, you don't. I mean, first of all, if you try to market to everybody, you're going to need a marketing budget, that is enormous, right?
Right.
And different people always buy for different reasons, right?
Mhm.
And I have a friend of mine, also prior customer, who is he runs a very successful company. They're very, especially after we worked with them, they're very, very profitable. And he just got himself a Ferrari because he was really happy. I mean, but the guy is vain, right? And so he buys for that. He wants to have some kind of confirmation of his own success, right?
Mhm.
And that being one way of doing it, and there are many, obviously I know other CEOs that are more successful than him, that do not need fancy cars to get a personal sort of confirmation that they're successful. Yes, the business success itself
Right.
is good for them, so these two examples are two folks that are buying cars, but they're buying different cars for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Right. And as marketers, we know when you talk to everyone, you almost speak to no one.
That's
It's
right.
really the focus of who you're trying to target,
I love going to I go to a lot of trade shows, right? And I walk the floor and I meet people and I get leads to my company. And I mean, I'm amazed on how many companies to spend $250,000 on a trade show booth and they don't tell you what they do, right?
Right. They think showing it is enough. Like, look at all the 100 bells and whistles we have, but not really talking to the person walking by.
Yeah, or more often you have these, some message about quality or some message about some very generic message that is supposed to appeal to a very large portion of the marketplace, and because of that, it doesn't appeal to anybody.
Right.
And in fact, in the many studies that we've done, we have found that a very specific targeted message to a specific customer category can often lead to a 50 to sometimes even 100% increase in sales volume.
Wow.
So let's get into this next one. So before sales volume, we'll see, I'll read this one. I know what my market is willing to pay for my product or service. Talk to us about this.
Well, so how would you know?
Right.
It's really funny because even if your competitors have prices online, right? You don't know as a company what deals they're making. You don't know what bundles they're making off the outside of what they have in the website. You don't know if the website is geotagged, so somebody else somewhere else sees a different price. You don't know if they set it up so that if you bounce out and come back, you'll see a different price, right?
Right.
And if your customers, people in your market don't have prices on the website, how will you ever find out?
Right.
If you talk to joint customers, will they tell you? Probably not, right? Because they want you to continue to sell at the lowest price possible. So if they do tell you, it's probably not even truthful, right? And if a company sends out the salespeople with instructions to take the highest price you can, that's not going to be a very high price.
Yeah.
Because salespeople always want lower prices, right?
Let's get into that salesperson comment. So the best way is to send out salespeople and they will negotiate the highest price possible. So talk to us about that quickly.
No, this is not the best way. It never works. Because salespeople, there's obviously nothing wrong with salespeople, but they always want lower prices because they always think that is what's going to lead to the highest sales volume, and they're often compensated on revenue, not on profits, right? Or on sales volume, not on profits.
Right.
And that often leads to, we did some work with one customer. They had some very complicated enterprise software, and they were just in one of those. They had a price list, and the first conversation they had with customers was, "Do you want 85% or 90% discount?"
Wow.
and discounting like that also sends a message of desperation of the seller, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's hold that thought. This next one will wrap this up and we'll transition. But increasing prices always kills off sales volume. So to your point there, so quick thought about that, please, Per.
No, I mentioned this SaaS company that increased prices very substantially and saw an increase in sales volume. Another company we worked with, a SaaS company as well, actually had 17,000 customers, and initially we said you can increase price with an average 41%. Which they did, and as a result of that, the CEO got 2 angry emails and 1 angry phone call, and didn't lose a single customer. Right?
Well, it's funny. it was funny. Well, not funny, but I had a client who's in the HVAC business, and they increased their pricing like 3 or 4 years ago. And they thought like, well, I'm going to lose customers. And it was the opposite. They
Yes.
actually gained more customers, obviously increased their profit margins, and was able to grow their company.
The higher prices, like I said, leads to more resources for more marketing, more market development, more product development, and all these good things, you know. And it also leads to the company have more resource to serve their customers better.
Yeah.
And if you really look out in the marketplace, what you'll find is that the market leaders are almost always the high price alternative.
Right.
And in a study we did a few years ago, we asked people, we talked about the 1% challenge, and we asked about 550 American CEOs, which of there's only 3 variables that affects a company's profitability. It's the total cost of operation, it is the sales volume of whatever you sell, and it's the price of whatever you sell. And of these, price has the highest leverage on profits. That is unbeknownst to 86% of American CEOs. Right? They think that sales volume is the highest driver for profitability.
So let's just get into it now. So your book, The Price Whisperer. So what can everyday entrepreneurs, everyday small business person who aren't these big enterprise companies learn from a price whisperer, or from your, if they purchase your book? What are 2 or 3 real takeaways that you could share with that everyday business person?
Well, first of all, most of my clients are small to mid-market companies. They are not the Fortune 2000s, right? Many of the real big companies have internal resources that can work with pricing, and smaller companies typically don't. But some takeaways in general is that do not be timid with pricing. Find ways of differentiate yourself in such a way that willingness to pay among your customers are increasing. Do not look at your competitor, because once you set prices as your competitor, the next step is that you suddenly have similar marketing messages, you have similar product features, and lo and behold, you have entered the commoditization death spiral, which is not where you want to be, right?
What do you say to those businesses who have many competitors in the space and they sell the same service? Price, labor are going to be the same. What do you say to that business to try to differentiate their message? And
well, I worked with a digital agency a little while back, and they were like so many digital agencies, they were commoditized, right? And they were selling on low price alone. But they had a founder of this digital agency that is one of the thought leaders in their industry, right? And I said to them, make him the star of the company, right? Because it's only him. There's only one of him.
right, he's the asset.
Yeah, he's a tremendous asset, and it was actually hard to get hold of him to be on the call in some of these, because he was going from conference to conference to talk about the stuff they do, you know. And so it is about finding ways to differentiate yourselves, right? And you can almost always do that. Let me give you another example. A little while back, I decided I wanted to buy one of these blood pressure monitors, right? So I went on to Amazon and I looked for it, and I scrolled page after page, and then I saw 2 products that was identical. They had different brands, but they obviously came from the same manufacturer somewhere in China. One had descriptions that was very brief, and it was obviously Google translated from Chinese, so it was quite unintelligible, right?
Yeah.
The other had high resolution pictures, they had humanly written descriptions, and so forth, and sounded like a much better alternative, and it was about 80% more expensive than the first one, right? So just even if the product is the same, you are able to in this case, differentiate yourself to that particular competitor by simply market it better, right?
Perception is reality, right?
Perception is absolute reality, right? And obviously another way that you need to look at, and that is to find specific market verticals you can serve better than and market better to than your commodity competitors, right?
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna hit you with a question here. What, for the book that you wrote, The Price Whisperer, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's probably your favorite chapter and why?
Oh, that's very hard. I know that the book has actually been made part of the curriculum in a couple of entrepreneurial programs here in Los Angeles by
Nice.
run by the universities. I think there's a chapter on pricing mistakes, and I go through the often very common pricing mistakes, and I think that's my favorite chapter only because companies read this or executives read this and they will recognize themselves, in almost all cases. They would say, yeah, we do that, we shouldn't do it. We do that too, and we shouldn't do that either.
Right. So you're making it relatable, so they
Yes,
can
correct.
relate to what you're talking about, so
Yeah.
that way they can move past it and maybe change their pricing.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you something. So in 2 minutes, can you talk about the 1% challenge to our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in? They're intrigued by the topic. What would you say quickly about your 1% challenge?
Well, we created this because it is it brings home the importance of pricing, right? And I call it a challenge because 1% is tiny, tiny, tiny,
Right.
Have you ever failed to change anything 1%, right? Of course not, right?
Right. Never.
And I just to entertain myself, I looked at half a dozen public companies, just looked at their financials, and I could see that some companies were doing pricing really well, meaning that a 1% increase in price or a 1% decrease in discount would affect their profits with about 5%, right? In other cases, the 1% will change their profitability with 45%, right?
Wow.
If you look at Amazon, right? If they can increase their prices 1%, they will double their profit.
That's amazing. So yeah.
What do you think that, we talked about the giants, but it works for every company. There's if you want to go to my website, there is that little calculator sits there online, right? So you just fill in.
And tell our listeners and viewers who are listening what your website is. Is it Sjofors?
Yeah, sjofors.com, sjofors.com. But it's much easier. It's going to show up if you Google the Price Whisper. So it's a
I
lot
don't think
easier.
I don't think there's a Google autocorrect for Sjofors if
No.
people say it on their phone. So, but the Price Whisperer, is easy to say. So
The price whisper is easier to say. So if you Google that, you hit a lot. You're going to find a lot of not only my company and my book, but also the I have a YouTube channel and a TikTok channel and stuff like that.
so is that the best way for people interested in connecting with you to visit your website? Is the best way to contact you?
Yeah, there's I have half a dozen different guides on the website. I have a masterclass in pricing, and obviously I have the book here. This is something that people can read, and there's a tremendous amount of content on the website.
Awesome. All right. So before we go, one last plug for our hashtag Valor Cares initiative, Joe.
Sure. So if you own a business and you are looking to have a website rebuilt, or you're starting a business for the first time and you need a website to start your online foundation, we'd love to see if we can help you out. Submit your information and we'll be in touch with see if we can help you build a website.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. And Per, thank you. For those businesses listening or tuning in, want to know more about the 1% challenge, visit Per's website. We'll get it spelled out, or just Google the Price Whisperer. He'd love to connect with you and help out. But on behalf of our sponsors, Advanced Services and Fuse Networks, thank you, Per, for joining us today on this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm Galen.
I'm Joe.
I'm coming at you virtually from the BD Local Studios in Tacoma, Washington. Thanks and listening to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast. Thanks, everyone.
A good networker is like a great interviewer.
I'm huge on authenticity, guys. It's a big part of my message.
Claim your local listings and don't get caught paying someone for your local listing.
If you want to be successful, you got to do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times.
And when in doubt, give to other people and don't expect anything in return. But in giving to other people and helping them, it almost always comes back.
It's using the power of partnership, creating trusted partner networks to work with you to make your company be an offer more than just you.
They've done 90% of the work. It's your job to do the last 10% to meet them in the middle.
Don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning.